all the aspects with all your preconceived notions in your head. Sometimes you got to just let something be dope and you don't even have to know why, but just know when to chill and just let it breathe.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is like, you know, we're so used to the way our own brains work. And it's so, I think something I'm working on continuously is just letting more people into my creative process. And having it not just be me, you know, starting with, you know, using a mastering engineer that I trust, and then, you know, other people to edit or add instruments, or, you know, just as long as it's not only me all the time, the music gets so much better, you know?
It's so true. And that only me, that's something I had to get past.
Me too.
In my career, you know, because it would be one of those things where it's like, okay, you know, let's say an artist's album comes out and you've got like a couple beats on there. And then everyone's talking about, oh, I love this album you worked on. I love track 5. And you're like, yeah, that's not the one that I did. You know, or when you do something that's a collaborative effort and what everybody tends to love is not the thing that you did, you start to get in this mind, oh, well, I got to do everything. So when they love it, no matter what they ask about, yeah, I did it. I did it all. I recorded it. I arranged it. I played the French horn on it, and I mixed it, and I mastered it, and I stream it by hand. Every time you listen to it, I'm pushing the sound to you. It's like no one asked you to do all that. We just like the song. And being able to let go of, I need all of the accolades for every single thing that I ever do so I can always get my props. It's not necessary. If you're known for having a hand in creating great music, that's the goal, not to have done it all by yourself.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And it's the truth. Like as a bass player, you know, I love being, you know, a supporting role and like just helping the band or helping the music just be presented in the best possible way. And it's the same thing in the studio. And I think a lot of it is also because, you know, people in like maybe more my generation, not that I'm that much younger than you, but like because we've grown up just in our man and woman caves, just working at it by ourselves for so many years, we're just so used to just like, I'll just do all of this, you know, because I have control. I have the computer, you know, and it's not from that, like, you know, and it's hurting, I think, a lot of people in our generation from doing their best work.
It's definitely been exacerbated, sounds like the wrong word because, again, that sounds negative, but it's been amplified with the advent of home digital recording and the ease of it, which is wonderful because it allows so many more people and so many more creative ideas to blossom and to come into fruition. But like with everything, it's a bit of a double-edged sword because, yeah, you wind up being so single-focused and doing everything yourself that you kind of forget, oh, well, I'm not a very good bass player. I should send this to Ben and let Ben put some bass on it. And yeah, maybe I didn't do the bass, but the bass will be good. If I do the bass, it's going to suck because I'm not a good bass player. So what do we want? Do I want credit for crappy bass, or do I want the song to be right with the right bass on it? And like we kind of forget that because if we're in the same room, it's like, yo, Ben, pick up the bass. Or maybe you already have it, and I'm like, oh, that's dope. Let's record that. You don't get those moments of inspiration from somebody else to build off of and to snowball.
Right.
But then, you know, there's less gatekeeping for what gets put out. And in a lot of ways, it's good because, you know, the colossus of, you know, the few major labels puts a cap on what's going to get but so much attention and be out there. And if there wasn't a way for indie artists to release music, there would just frankly be a lot less music. Some people might think a little bit less music might not be a bad thing. You know, just any old person can put out music. And I don't want to be an elitist snob and be like, well, not everybody should. But when you have to go through more hoops and a longer journey, it refines the artists, and the artists that make it through that journey often wind up being a bit more polished and locked into their vision and what they want to do. You know, I could record a song right now in 15 minutes and release it on the internet, put it on my Bandcamp, and then it's just out. That's a 15-minute record, right? Like, there's a reason that records can take a long time to do because concepts need to be fleshed out and understood, and mixes need to be checked in multiple places and make sure things translate. And there's something creatively interesting about that immediate release of, here's my idea and I'm just going to funnel it out and I'm going to dump it and here's that, you know. But that's like abstract art versus, you know, like a Renaissance painting, that maybe that Renaissance painting took someone 10 years to paint, but it's perfect. Or maybe the abstract is just a few brushstrokes, but that few brushstrokes better be the best brushstrokes for that abstract painting to still hold its artistic value. If you're just going to throw stuff out real quick, I feel like it needs to be masterfully done, even within that mindset of, you know, this is a quick thing to throw out. You know, if not, you run the risk of it just being sound for sound's sake rather than sound for art's sake. And I think that there's a little, I think there's a little bit of a difference there. And now we're just in a constant content world.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And it's like, you know, I could do without, I'd rather watch one movie than 100 TikTok videos that, you know, people doing silly dances. Like, give me the thing that people labored over and polished to make it the most refined version of their idea. I'm not as interested in the quick, mind dump thing. That's not right. That's not my taste.
It's like a creative intent, you know, like intention of what this art is and how it's going to be made and stuff.
Yeah, I just feel like art has value, and music is art and has historically always been art, but it's now been kind of turned to where it is just content. It is just a commodity to have out there. You know, people used to take 2 years to put out albums, and now people put out 3 or 4 albums a year. And it's like, well, by the time I get to album 3, is this still worth listening to? Or are these just like half-baked ideas? Maybe it's brilliant and that's for the truly special, but I don't know, you know? You gotta let that food simmer. You gotta let the flavors marinate, you know?
Yeah, it's true. What is interesting, like why, I mean, I understand why people put out so much music now. It's just because you have to cut through the noise and continuously be top of mind, right? If people see you putting out songs on Instagram, on TikTok or whatever, you know, the people are at these days, oh, I'm reminded of that artist. Oh, I like that artist's last release, you know, let me just keep following. Otherwise, you know, people get forgotten about in just the utter mass I don't know, the sea of noise out there, you know. So it's, I get it, but how do you toe that line of, as an artist, of like maintaining people's attention, but also taking the time to really do intentional art, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that is the great question.
And with budgets also, right? And with budgets these days.
The budgets aren't what they were, but you want top quality and you want it immediately and you want it everywhere. It's like there's a lot of pressures to that. And this is also something that, you know, is a bit of a result from the digital creation age, is that, you know, we're all in the same sandbox here. So if I have an album that I produce that comes out, you know, it's in direct competition with a new Drake album, let's say. Right? Now, a Drake album has all the budget in the world, they can afford all the top flight, everybody to be involved in it, you know, and if my indie R&B record that I made on a much smaller scale comes out that same day, we are in direct competition. Like, there's no, you know, so like my quality has to be good because the listener is just going to say, well, this thing sounds good and this thing sounds, you know, kind of crappy and rushed. I'm going to listen to the good thing. And that quality, like Drake's always going to have that. Jay-Z's always going to have that. Erykah Badu's always going to have that. The up-and-comers, the smaller artists are under the pressure of competing at that level with a fraction of the budget and a fraction of the team around them. Like Drake's not there mixing his own records and uploading them to SoundCloud. You know what I mean? Like he's got a team around him that's doing these things. He comes in, he does his little vocal thing or whatever, and then he probably leaves and goes about his fabulous life. You know, when it's DIY, it doesn't have to mean do everything all by your lonesome. Right? There's too much. Like you said it right at the top of our conversation, you know, people graduate from engineering school or wherever, not even just a musical discipline, wherever. And then it's like, well, yeah, everyone should be an entrepreneur now. You know what? People might be real qualified to record a vocal or to mix a record and not do QuickBooks.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is not... Everybody isn't necessarily designed and built and intended to be a CEO of a business. Sometimes maybe they just rap good. And that should be enough. But now you have to do all these things because everyone is their own entity for every facet of the industry. And I think it's a lot to ask.
It is. It's a massive ask. Yeah. I think that's why, you know, creatives have it so tough these days, because literally every aspect is on them, and this also dilutes the quality of the art, right? Because you're not focused on art all the time. You're focused on art. You're focused on media. You're focused on all the things all the time. It's distracting. You know, you lose focus. You don't have the same amount of time. All these things.
You're not practicing your guitar because you're doing your mailing list. You know, and
exactly.
It's like, yeah, the mailing list is important. But what are you mailing them about? Your fantastic guitar playing. So what is the priority here? You know, and just finding that balance. No, you can't play guitar all day long, but I don't want to be doing emails at 2 a.m. when I should be asleep getting ready for my next day.
Yeah. Well, how have you kind of offloaded some of those? I know that you have some management now. Like, how have you been able to kind of navigate for yourself personally, kind of isolating the business side of things and the artistic creative side of things?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still working on it. You know, I do sit up late and do my books and I regret it the next morning, but also, you know, got to keep your books right. That's something you never regret, is having your accounting taken care of. But yeah, I mean, I have a small staff here at the greenhouse, and I'm different than a regular artist because I have a studio. Like I'm working on multiple projects all at the same time, where, you know, if you're the vocalist, if you're the artist, this is the thing that you're working on, and maybe peripheral things or guest features or whatever. But like I'm always juggling between 5 and 10 projects at a time.
Sure.
And so, you know, I've got a small staff I've got an assistant who just helps me coordinate everything, and she works my calendar and emails and stuff and just keeps me being a sane person. So when I'm at work, I can mix records and I'm not thinking about all the other things, you know, that go into it. And then I have a studio assistant who will either be in the room with me on larger sessions, or a bare minimum, he sets up all my mixes. So I just people send me multi-tracks. He sets them up in Cubase, in my template, how I expect to see them, and everything ready to go. So I can sit down, press play, and start to mix. You know, and I pay everybody and I take care of people because I don't want people not, you know, I don't really believe in like free interns and that kind of stuff, because I don't know, people's time is valuable, and I want them to be respected that way, you know, and that part's important. I don't want to take advantage of people because, you know, your impression and your reputation follows you forever. You know, you screw somebody or you take advantage of somebody, and that's something that follows you in your career forever. So it's important to be up and up on those kind of things. But as far as, you know, the assisting, you know, he saves me, Tevin, my studio assistant, saves me anywhere from a half an hour to an hour on every single song that I mix, because he's color coding the tracks, making sure everything's labeled properly, routed to where I want it to be routed in my template, so I can just hit play. If I'm mixing a full length, that might be 15 hours that he saves me. That's valuable time. You know, that's time that I could either be mixing or not be mixing and be with my family or be doing whatever I'm doing or sleeping, which is really cool as we have observed, you know? So,
Yes.
you know, and that's that, okay, I am letting go of the control and letting other people